Lee McCabe, welcome to Built to Sell Radio.
Hey, thanks, John. Good to be here.
You are stirring the pot on LinkedIn, my friend. I love it. You and I have lots of kind of common folks, and I've come across your posts, and everyone has like 700, comments and 1,000 likes or whatever. And you are a very provocative and connoisseur of what the world of private equity is going through right now. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Pleasure. Look, I think there's a lot of noise on LinkedIn, and it turns out if you are authentic, it gets a lot of engagement.
Yeah. And I want to read for my listeners a quote from one of your posts. Before I do that, though, I just want to level set on Claymore and how you became in the private equity kind of universe. Kind of walk me through in the mountaintops how you became involved in private equity.
Sure. So look, my background was all digital. I was with eBay, Expedia, Meta, Alibaba, general management for big tech, big digital businesses. At Alibaba, it really opened my eyes to private equity in a number of ways. It opened my eyes to the grasp that PE had across a lot of industries, a lot of businesses. And it also opened my eyes to how not digital PE was. And that just struck me as being crazy at the time. They were still relying on the old levers they've had and the views for a long time. And being a digital guy, I thought it was crazy that they weren't thinking that digital should definitely be in the top 3 levers that we use for value creation across these companies, across B2B, across manufacturing, across home services. It's very apparent. D2C.
Why would you at Alibaba and Expedia and Meta have visibility in a private equity? Because those aren't private equity backed companies. Those are obviously all public. Or how did you come to observe private equity?
Because one of the parts of my role as head of North America at Alibaba Group, I was pitching all the major brands in the US to sell into China on the Chinese platforms like Tmall. And all these major brands I was pitching, I normally had to go and talk to the board as well. And the majority of the boards were PE guys. So
and you saw these guys who just didn't know anything about digital.
Pretty much. I won't say nothing, that's not true, but it certainly wasn't a priority for them when they thought about value creation.
Yeah, when we interviewed Adam Coffey, the guy behind the private equity Playbook, he talked a lot about multiple arbitrage. He talked about bigger companies get better multiples. He talked about getting rid of all the inefficiency.
Pricing.
Yeah. All sort of B school kind of strategies.
Exactly.
And so I want to read for my listeners a LinkedIn post that you made, and let me read it here because it again broke the internet as far as I could tell. What made private equity successful over the past 20 years will not make it successful over the next 20. The old model was deceptively simple. Load up on cheap debt, buy a business at 8x, sell it at 12 times, slap on a board of gray-haired ex-CEOs, add a 100-day plan, mostly cost-cutting and vague, quote, strategic priorities, hope the market bails you out with the multiple expansion. That model worked, and it worked very well, but the tide has gone out. Interest rates are no longer zero. Multiple arbitrage is no longer a strategy, and LPs are no longer content with glossy PowerPoints and IRR math that looks better on paper than it plays out in cash on cash. Private equity is shifting from capital deployment to capability deployment. The firms that win going forward will A, build value for day one, not year 3, rely on operating leverage, not just financial leverage, have real sector expertise, not just theme and a banker, invest in demand gen, not just EBITDA margins, track attribution like public equity desk. Where did the actual alpha come from, quote unquote? In short, the next wave of outperformance will come from firms that behave more like industrial builders than investment bankers. The question is, how many firms can evolve fast enough before the old playbook stops working entirely? The deal toy clock is ticking. And that got hundreds and hundreds of comments and likes. Why do you think that, resonated so much with your followers?
I think it resonates because there are not many voices in PE, because when you work in PE, you're locked down by the GC and you can't see anything. You can't even
define the acronym GC for folks who may not have heard that.
General Counsel. So, when you work for a PE firm, you can't see anything. And there's obviously good reason for that. But you definitely can't voice your opinion on social media anyway. You're not really allowed to be on social media or like things. So what I discovered, actually by surprise, now with my own firm, I can say what I want, and it resonates, because it turns out a lot of people are thinking this, but they're locked down from actually saying anything themselves. It's funny, on LinkedIn, I get a lot of likes, but I get more messages from people who can't like the posts, who say, I need to send you a DM and tell you what I think of the post and how it resonated with me. So that's the dynamic.
Hey, it's John. Look, if you're building to sell, I want to let you know about a resource you may find helpful. It's called the Value Builder Score, and it will evaluate your company in the same way that acquirers will look at your business. It'll give you a score on the 8 factors that drive the value of your company. You'll also get an estimate of value and things you could do to improve that value over time, whether you want to sell now or in a decade from now. Knowing how the movie ends, I think, puts you in the catbird's seat, gives you all kinds of negotiating leverage. So it's available exclusively through a Value Builder advisor. So talk to your advisor. If you don't have one yet, you can go to valuebuilder.com/score. Let us know what industry you're in, and we will connect you with an advisor who specializes in companies like yours. Just go to valuebuilder.com/score. Interesting. And what message in there do you think hits a chord? I think, one of the broader themes in that message is, look, what worked in the past is not going to work in the future. Is that just because interest rates are up? I mean, will it go back to working when interest rates go back to where they were a couple years ago?
It's definitely a factor. So the time of free money has gone away, which means a lot of these strategies about just acquire, build a business, that went away and was a shock for some firms. That means you have to focus on operational value creation. You have to build organic growth on what you have. And that wasn't the norm for most PE firms, right? Again, they've done well for a long time. They weren't focused on that organic growth, and they didn't move fast enough. I mean, there's a few things going on. I mean, culturally, the whole operating partner role in these companies, if you ask 20 firms what an operating partner does, you'll get 25 different answers. I think firms have struggled with how to leverage that. And I think there's a cultural play at work there as well, where these guys really have the power of influence. They can't go in and fix the companies. And I think going forward, that has to change. I think you have to get in there day one and fix these businesses. And I believe there are some firms that do that, more the tech-focused firms like Toma Bravo and Vista, who will buy your company and will say, look, we bought you for a reason. We saw the opportunity and we know what we're doing. And we've done this 20 times before. So on day one, we're going to put these playbooks in place and we're going to create even more value for you. And I think if you approach it like that, that should be well received, certainly by the business and the CEO. But I think they're in the minority.
Toma Bravo and Vista Equity Partners, but specializing in software as a service, as I understand, and they've got to get a 6-digit NAICS code. They've got a very, very, very highly targeted, industry specialization. We've had people on this show that focus on acquiring garage door businesses and HVAC companies, all very specific industries.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But the thing is, and I work with a lot of those businesses now. I mean, I like consumer services. I like home services a lot. That's a huge opportunity for value creation. Very resilient businesses and resilient agencies that are fragmented and have really worked on traditional methods. They haven't digitized as fast as they should. But there are really some foundational things that every business should do. It starts with the tech stack. And still, most businesses don't do this. If I was a CEO, it would be the thing I would want to do on day one It should be the same for the PE firm to say, look, here's what we're going to do. One, we want to understand the business and we want to understand the customer journey of your business and your model. A lot of companies don't understand that, which is crazy. It's not hard to map out. You would want to understand how your customer comes in the funnel, how you convert them at every stage, ultimately, how you transact and make money from them. So you say, let's look at the customer journey. And then you say, right, let's look at the tech that we are built on, the ERP, the CRM, the marketing automation software, everything. And you ask two things of that. You say, one, do we have the right tech stack to make this customer journey efficient and effective as possible? So we're communicating, we're converting at every stage, and we're getting the data. But two, more importantly, is to say, do we have a business built on data? And any company can do that now, building the right tech stack. You would want to say, I'm going to put this tech stack in place. So I've got 2020 across everything in my business. I've tagged everything. I've tracked everything. I know where every phone call comes from. I know where every web form comes from. I can see the funnel in detail of how I'm getting customers, how I'm converting customers, how I'm monetizing customers, how I'm putting that customer back through the flywheel to return them, to upsell them, to cross-sell them. I mean, that should be the foundation. No matter what business or industry you're in, that should just be foundation 101 of something you would want to do on day one.
But I think most founders know that stuff intuitively. They've got it in the back of their head. And from what I've seen, that's part of why private equity acquisitions fail, is because they fail to mine call it the instinct of the founder. The founder comes to know what the funnel is in their head. They haven't mapped it out in the rigor you're describing, but they know it. They know that, I get 3 referrals from this guy and my website does this. And they kind of know intuitively. It's not scalable, but it's in their head. And then they pass their business off to private equity. And private equity comes in with these clinical models, but they lose the essence of what made the company successful in many cases, because they're trying to graft very objective sort of business school models onto an instinctive leader's business.
So look, I don't think it is. One, it's right what you said, it's not scalable. And to be an attractive business for an investor, you need to be a scalable business. So to say the founder knows the funnel and he's got it all in his head, that's great. And it's got you to a point, which is awesome. It's got you to a point where you've been able to exit your business and sell your business. And that's hugely impressive. But if you think about the next whole period, you want to scale that business as quickly as possible. And you can't rely on what's on the founder's head to do that alone. So you do need systems in place and you do need data in place. And also, just beyond putting the basics in, with, of course, the world of AI, which we live in now, which is largely noise, we're getting hit all over by AI can do everything. And it will at some point, but it can do certain things well right now. To even win the right to get good at AI, you need the data. AI is not a magic wand, right? You can't just put that on a business with no data and no tech stack and expect it to perform. It's a shiny object right now for most people. I remind a lot of companies, or have in the past, that you need the right to win, to play in this. And you haven't even got a tech stack. You don't even have a CRM. Excuse me. So what data are you going to give AI? So I think the tech stack and the data is just a hygiene factor. If you want to really create a great business that's going to scale going forward and be able to take advantage of all these future technologies on the ground, you need a tech stack built for data.
So the old playbook was, hey, we're going to use a bunch of debt. We're going to buy you at 8 and sell you at 12. What you're advocating here is, hey, there's going to be more than just multiple arbitrage play. What you've got to learn how to do is execute as a private equity group. You've got to take the instinctive leadership of a business owner, make it scalable. And I guess my question would be, if it were that easy, why wouldn't the business owner put their own processes in place and kind of keep all the equity? Like, could they take your advice and do it without the private equity group and just basically retain all the equity?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just, look, the majority of founders I meet who, look, are hugely successful and have built great businesses are not digital guys. So they've typically built these businesses on brand, and it's been on traditional media. A lot of the cases I see are built on huge TV campaigns and radio campaigns and direct mail, especially in home services. And they've built a great business. They've just been slow to move into digital. And for some reason reticent to move into digital.
Well, I think part of that reticence comes from the way they perceive their success to be derived. So when I talk to business owners, let's use home service as an example. I say, look, what makes you different? Why should I use you as a roofer and not the other 6 roofers that came up in my internet search? And they'll say customer satisfaction. I give great customer satisfaction. That's why you should pick me. That's why my customers pick me. Best customer satisfaction.
But that's just a component of it. The great customer satisfaction creates a flywheel of your reviews, which gets you more customers. But that audience that is available to you on digital is massive, and you need to be found. And it's very easy to be found by being good at digital. And look, I mean, I'm sure I'll ask you, whenever you look for something now, where do you go first? Whether it's a product or a service?
I use AI now, but I used to use Google.
Sure, but we're using digital, right?
Yeah, digital. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But typically it's Google. It's Google, or if you're looking for a product, it's Amazon. So, I mean, the world goes to digital first. Whatever I'm looking for, that means you've got to be found. If I'm looking for a roofer in Greenwich, you've got to be in the top 3. So you've got to figure out a way of getting there and profitably be in the top 3. And that's how you win a lot of business. That's how you win everybody searching for roofers. Now, of course, it's your job to have provide a great service. And there are benefits of that because you get that customer coming back. You get word of mouth. That customer will leave a great review. That creates even more business for you. But it still starts at that top of the funnel, which is massive. Mm-hmm. So that full audience of people looking for you, you've got to be found. And that actually translates to B2B now, which is another big opportunity. And B2B changed because it used to be, if you want a business buyer to find your product, it's all conferences and trade magazines, and a lot of relationship building and steak dinners. Well, B2B just follows B2C. So if you think about all the buyers in B2B now, where do they go first? They go to Google first, every time. So it's just as important for B2B. So it's important for you to fill that top of the funnel. Brand is great, and you always need brand in there because brand supports everything else, but it probably should be 30% of your budget. The rest should be digital.
I want to switch gears and talk about private equity companies. You mentioned Vista and Toma Bravo, but there's obviously a wide range. What's your sense of the typical psychographics of a partner in a private equity company? Paint the picture. Our listeners are busy running their company, right? They've been building something for 10, 20, 30 years. It's a successful company, and they probably just started to become aware of this group of people out there, these mysterious people in the night who are called private equity, partners or private equity individuals. And they're probably, it just seems like a vague constituency. Like, help them unpack them for them. Who are they? How do they think? Where do they go to school? Give me the short description.
Well, I've friends with a lot and work a lot and have a lot of colleagues who are on the deal partner side. And it's kind of it's a paradox. One, the smartest people in the world, but also the simplest. Because if you think about it, they're making a ton of decisions every day. And the currency in private equity is judgment. Do I buy this business? And if I buy this business, can I hold it for 4 years and exit for a multiple and a price that works for me? So if you think about all these variables going on, it's not just do I buy the business, all the vendors coming to me offering new services. You really boil it down to 2 things. Is this going to make me money, or is this going to save me money? That's the question you ask every time. And hopefully the data's there to give you an easy answer. If it's not, it's judgment. And when you buy a business, you spend a lot of time on the diligence, looking at that business, looking at the comp set, looking at previous purchases, and you look at all the data you have. And look, sometimes that's not always great. right? You always get surprised when you buy a business. There's always something you missed or just data wasn't there. But you spend a lot of time in the diligence, you look at everything you have in hand, and then you make a judgment. And the judgment is, if I invest X in this business, which is coming from the LPs that have given us this fund, so I'm investing their money. If I invest X of their money in this business, do I have a high degree of confidence that I can exit this business in 4 to 5 years and add value and make 2.5 to 3x my money on this business? So it's a very, very financial view, and it's an investment.
The 2.5 to 3x my money, that's the equity they're putting at risk, not the debt they're underwriting. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Got it. So they're going to say, they're going to put a structure together that involves some of their equity, some debt that they get, and maybe an equity role on behalf of the owner that is selling out.
Yeah.
And they want their tranche of equity.
Yeah, for people not versed in PE, it's like buying a house. Pretty much the same. It's like buying and flipping a house. You buy the asset, you buy the house. Let's say it's $100,000. You put $20,000 down of your own money. You take $80,000 in debt. You hold it for 4 years. Hopefully the market goes up. A rising tide raises all boats. So private equity always likes betting on successful and buoyant markets. But you hold the house for 4 years. You probably do some improvements to the house. You might add a pool to the house. You add value. And then after 4 years, you sell the house for $200,000, and that $20,000 has returned $120,000
because you put as little as you possibly could in at risk.
And you've probably paid down the debt as well. Your mortgage, you've paid down the debt with your mortgage as well. So PE is pretty much the same.
How do they go from the kids who call me and say, "Hey, would you like to sell your company?" to becoming among the most intelligent, smartest, best judgment people on earth? Here's what I've experienced. The top end of private equity, the Toma Bravo partners, the Vista, those folks are, I would argue, as you described them, among the smartest people I've ever kind of interacted with. Yeah. Yet, on the bottom end of the ladder, the kids that get recruited out of university and they're kind of thrown the proverbial phone book, of course it's not the phone book, but it's the internet, and they start calling, their pitches are pretty obtuse. They're not well thought out. They're just dialing for dollars. What's the trajectory between a 23-year-old who doesn't know their head from their whatever to a partner at Vista? Like, how do they go from there, from being kind of as naive and ignorant about because a lot of my listeners get calls all the time, right? They're getting flooded with calls, and they hang up within 3 seconds because the person on the other end of the phone hasn't even done the most basic element of due diligence, right? Yeah. Like, they don't even know what industry they're in. They're just calling, right? Yeah. So they have a very bad taste in their mouth about private equity. Yet I think if they saw some of the people you're talking about, the partners, they would be impressed. So tell me about that journey.
It's two things there. I think it's very different. It depends on your EBITDA, who you're getting approached by. If your EBITDA is on the lower end, then you're probably getting approached by small business brokers. And I think that industry is like the Wild West right now. Anyone thinks there can be a small business brokerage. Accountants who think they can do it, lawyers who think they can do it. I think it's broken because they probably take fees up front, which I think is unfair. Any deal like this should be, look, we don't make any money unless we transact. I think the quality of the relationship with that business is shaky. And I think the materials are bad. I mean, you look at Sims, which are ostensibly pitch decks. You know, if you want to sell a business, you pull a deck together, a sales deck for that business. Most of what I see from small business brokers look like my 12-year-old pulled together, and that's insulting my 12-year-old. I think that industry is broken. That's really the bottom end. Your other question, so once you start moving into middle market PE firms, you join as associate, and usually it's a fight. Right? Every recruiting season, it's a fight to get the smartest. You're going for the smartest kids from the best schools. It's a fight to bring these kids into the business. And really, for the PE firm, or they may say otherwise, it's a resource. It's a resource. It's an apprenticeship. It's a testing and battleground because you bring 20 kids in and you train them, and then the kids who work the hardest and are the smartest and show the most judgment early will slowly work their way through the firm. So you bank on, you're probably an associate for 2 years, you're a senior associate for 2 years, and the triangle gets sharper, very sharp, as soon as you get to the top. I don't know what the odds are of making partner, but they're slim. So then you will go to VP for 4 years, you'll go to principal for 4 years, and then you'll be selected to make partner or you won't be. And you look elsewhere. So that's the typical trajectory.
Where do they go when they fall off that triangle? Where do they go?
Well, now they've got more maturity. Typically, they'll go to other firms. They might go to smaller firms and make partner there, or make managing director. There's different titles across different businesses. Or sometimes they're stepping out. They might go into a brand or a strategic and do M&A at the brand or the strategic. They might go into consulting. I mean, look, it's like anything. I think if you're smart and you're determined and you're resilient and you've got good judgment, you can open a lot of doors for yourself in these industries. Maybe you go to McKinsey or Bain, or you go to a consultancy for a while in a holding pattern, and that works until you figure out where you want to go. Maybe you chance your arm in big tech and you go that way. I see a lot of people switching now between finance and big tech. And that makes sense because they're all going after the best of the best to bring into these businesses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm thinking of some of my listeners who are looking down the barrel of having to work with some of these kids. And I call them kids because in many cases there's a 20-year gap between the owner who has built a successful business based on instinct, and a 35-year-old who they think really doesn't know anything about their company, their industry, and yet they're going to be faced with and questioned on their judgment by this 35-year-old little prick in their mind. And I wonder, like, what advice you would give a founder. They're looking at 2 acquisition offers, right? One is from a private equity group, and they're asking to be roll 30% of your equity, go work with Timmy over here. He'll be your contact here at our PE firm. Or maybe they've got an ETA buyer, entrepreneurship through acquisition, like an individual investor who's offering them 30% less. But they're arguing in their mind, they're saying, I could take the private equity deal, but I got to sign up and work with Timmy for the next 7 years, or I could take 30% less and be done. How would you coach an owner who's looking at that decision set?
I think you have to figure out the price of the pain. And I say that and don't generalize, because PE firms, it's not necessarily going to be painful. A lot of the time, it's great to work with. But really? I think, yeah. I mean, coming, I haven't done it, yeah. I see a lot of great relationships and great deals happening. But I think the relationship is more important than the price, right? Because it's like a marriage, it's like a dance. You're going to be working with these people for at least the next 5 years. And yes, if that's not a good marriage, you're going to be very, very unhappy.
But aren't the personalities, like what you're describing, it's it's oil and water.
I think that's very stereotypical. I think that's a stereotypical view where you say these finance guys who are like robots are going to come in and just spill and rip my business apart and just be focused on the financials. To be fair, I think that's the stereotypical view of private equity. And I'm not saying, look, some firms might be like that. And you're going to get people, of course you get people who might be like that. But from my experience, that's not the rule I've seen. I think the operator should look at, do these guys have humility? Are they going to come in and really be good partners for me? And the partner is not just about the funding and the investment. Are they going to be there with me every week when I need their help? And they all should understand what value the PE firm is going to bring them. Because it can't be just the investment. Because you can get investment from multiple places. So I think you've got to be very clear what this PE firm has done differently. Have they bought companies similar to mine in the past? What have they done? If they have, even better, speak to the founders of those companies. Get a full review from people who have worked with this PE firm already. And that's become a norm as well. Before the founder pulls the trigger, they should absolutely diligence the PE firm as hard as the PE firm is diligencing them, and just get a good feel that, okay, these are going to be really good business partners for me. I'm not going to hear from them just once a quarter, and they're going to dig deep and interrogate me on financials. These are guys that want to actually build a business for the long term with me, and want to build a business beyond the next turn, which hopefully I'll still be with again. So I think it's the importance in just the diligence on both sides.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't play nicely in the sandbox with other people, and you don't want someone to partner with, don't sell to private equity?
Probably not. Probably not, because you're going to have a partner which will, in most cases, take majority ownership of your business. If you are doing an amazing job and you're hitting targets, life should be okay, because you shouldn't pay from the PE firm. Because that's an ideal PE investment, right? You don't need operating partner. Ideal PE investment is we buy a company, we don't talk to them for 4 years, and we sell for 3x. That's the perfect PE investment. Of course, life is not like that, and 99% of companies are like that. So yes, if you're a founder and you don't want to have a boss, you probably shouldn't sell to PE.
Because I think let's get back to digital sort of capabilities, because you've got founders listening to this show right now who still use the yellow pages. Okay. And you're going to walk in there and say, hey, let's digitize this funnel. Let's get you some more, let's get you on social. Let's figure out your website. Let's figure out your AI strategy. Let's figure out your funnel. And he's going to look at you and say, yeah, no. Yellow pages works great.
Then you should carry on.
See all the yellow pages.
I've learned my lesson there as well. If the founder here doesn't get it, you're wasting your time. Seriously. You need a founder to say a few things. You need them to say, I get it. Digital's a thing. I'm on digital. I understand my customers on digital, but I don't understand it, and I really need your help.
That's the
and I will support you, and we'll get this built together. That's the ideal founder. If the founder says, not a priority for me, or I've got enough customers, or I know all my customers already, or, well, with that, I could employ 10 more sales guys instead of building out the marketing. Yeah, you say, fine, have at it. You should do that, because they're not going to change. I think the best CEOs and founders that I've worked with are the best ones that get it and say, I haven't been resourced, now I'm ready to resource. I completely get this. We absolutely need to be found on Google. We absolutely need this flywheel in place. Come and help me get this built out. Perfect. Next best is, we need to get this built out. I'm not a digital guy, but I really need your help, and I'll support you. That's the next best guy. And then when I think about CEOs, the smartest I've met, if you ask them the question, what business are you in? If they say, I'm in a roofing business, or I'm in a HVAC business, or I'm in a flooring business, that's good. But the guys who really get this will tell you, I'm in a sales and marketing business, because they understand this is all about lead generation. Yes, you've got to have a good product, and yes, ops has got to be good, but it's all about finding that customer, put him in the funnel, and transacting. It's all about lead generation. So the smartest guys in all these industries will say, I'm in charge of a sales and marketing business, and it's my primary job to build a digital engine to drive leads at scale profitably.
Yeah, I think of folks like Tommy Mallow who kind of use that model. There's a private equity group that's rolling up law firms in where I live, and it's all like, they don't actually have any lawyers. It's just a lead gen source for where they farm out the people who got hit by the bus to real lawyers. They're a sales and marketing company. And I guess I wonder, to some extent, some business owners would listen to you describe that ideal business owner who kind of gets digital but needs help executing. Like they philosophically say, yeah, I want to dominate digital, but I just don't have the chops to do it. I don't have the internal resources, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess some are looking at that and saying, well, why don't I just hire a digital agent? It'll cost me, but I'll retain 100% of my equity. What's the difference between evaluating those two paths? One, dumping a bunch of money into a digital agency that just goes and helps support versus somebody who's going to help, like a private equity group that's going to buy my company. Like, do people make? Do you understand what I'm asking?
The difference is, so I think, look, if you're a founder, you don't know digital, hiring a digital agency is a minefield because I think 99% are terrible. And I tell you why, because they won't take accountability for revenue. And at the end of the day, you've hired an agency to make money, not to drive clicks or impressions or conversion. And you've hired them to drive revenue. And the typical digital agency will happily spend an hour telling you about vanity metrics. There could be a lot of smoke and mirrors in digital. And at the end of the day, on the PE side, I always have one question for them. It's, how much money are you going to make me? You want $200,000 this year for marketing. Well, that's good, but it's just an investment like anything else. So if I give you $200,000, what are you going to return me? Is it $1 million? Is it 1.2? Show me how you're going to return that. And that's what a good digital agency is, but there are not many like that. They won't take accountability for revenue, and they'll bamboozle you with 1,000 vanity metrics. So the problem there is, if the CEO's not digital, he has to take what they say as gospel, because he can't interrogate them, he can't push back on them and say that's BS. No, because if business is good, a typical digital agency will say it's all down to us, and I'll show you the metrics why. If it's bad, it's the macro. It's the macro that's pulling us down right now. Our ops is fine. So, and I've seen this happen. I've seen this movie a lot, where a good founder who is not digital will do two things. They'll hire a person to do digital, and that person will probably be junior. It's probably some kid who's done social media, but for the founder, it ticks a box for them to say, I've got a digital person. And then they'll hire an agency, and that ticks a box to say, well, I've got an agency as well. So I'm a digital business, I've got an agency, and I've got a head of digital. The problem is they don't know what good looks like. And that's a big problem. And hiring is a problem, because let's face it, these are great businesses, but they're not sexy or aspirational businesses for the best digital talent. So that's another challenge in this. So I think one of the benefits of working for a PE firm, they've seen this movie before. They should know what good digital looks like. There should be a good shepherd in this respect to say, one, he's a good agency, because we've got them on 5 of our portfolio companies and they're solid and they've never failed us. And that alone can save you 6 to 12 months, because picking a bad agency you don't know digital can set you back a great deal. So
what does good look like?
Definitely. Well, I have a very simple answer. Good is an agency that makes you money and can show you how they're making you money. That's in the very simplest form, that's good for me. Again, they could spend hours talking about why they're good at driving impressions and clicks and conversion rate and why their creative is best in class. And that's great, but I expect you to do that. If I'm paying you to be an agency, awesome. I expect you to be good at all that. But at the end of the day, I'm making an investment with you. So just tell me what you're going to return on this investment for me. And a good agency with a high degree of confidence will tell me what the return on that investment is going to be. And they'll also put me in a place of scalability, because an ideal digital function or agency, your marketing budget should be bottomless. Right? If you get to a ROAS, which is a return on ad spend that is profitable, and let's say your customer acquisition cost, let's say your target is $200, and that's a good profitable transaction for you, a CAC $200. I would want to say to the agency, my marketing budget is bottomless. As long as you can get me CAC at $200, open the floodgates. Bring that in, or bring that business in all day long, and we'll take it. And a good agency will put a plan together to show, okay, here's how I think you're going to scale. Here's how we scale this while I hold CAC and other costs in this business. And I'm going to be a real growth partner for you. And we're going to grow this business together. And we're going to look at the revenue together. And I'm going to understand your business model and your business drivers. I'm not going to be just concerned with digital metrics.
You threw out a couple of acronyms there, and I want to make sure my listeners are following along. So you referred to ROAS, return on ad spend, and then CAC, customer acquisition cost. What's the difference between those two, and how do you calculate them?
They're typical marketing measures. So return on ad spend is for every dollar I spend on marketing, what's the revenue it returns, which is a very common measure in marketing. So if I spend $1, it returns $7. Your CAC is 7, basically. And then depending on your margin and everything else, you have a target of what my CAC needs to be to make that profitable. Your customer acquisition cost is how much does it cost me to land a paying customer. So that can take them through the funnel. I've paid for the clicks, I've paid for everything. But the minute that customer transacts, and maybe if I'm in a home service business, the value of that transaction is worth $15,000. It's a new roof or it's new windows in the house. What did I actually pay to get that customer to transact? That's CAC.
And you're saying that private equity partners, private equity groups are becoming kind of RevOps people, revenue operations people. It sounds like you are advocating for and arguing that the best ones, I think you said deploying capabilities as opposed to capital. Yeah. In the old days, it was about, hey, we're going to deploy some capital, we're going to give you some money, and you're going to go away and operate the business and get a return. Well, what you're saying is they're becoming capability deployers.
You have to be. And I think the newer firms with the younger partners get this. And certainly conversations are easier. When you say to them, is digital a priority? They'll say, no kidding, of course it is. It's a digital world. I'm a digital native. Of course digital is a priority. This is what we need to get built together. So there's just a much better understanding of digital in these kind of newer firms. And they're not all new. Some of the older firms get it and are turning around. So they understand that. And they've also got the wisdom of crowds. So you think about the firms that are 45 portfolio companies. If they're doing a good job, they're learning from all these portfolio companies. So they're saying, oh, this portfolio company's just crushed it in digital and this was their agency. Okay, we're going to use those guys again and again and again. So they should be learning all the time and putting repeatable models, and they should be building a bench of trusted vendors that they go to every time. And it just makes it all easier.
And when you've got that industry specialization, like you just do garage door companies or home service businesses or vertical SaaS or whatever the niche is, you see that pattern recognition more.
Yeah, I think that just gets faster and faster. If you just say, look, we're healthcare, that's it. Or we're just SaaS, or we're just residential services. Yeah, I think that learning speeds up.
Yeah. I guess I want to leave you with the final question, which is you've been in and around this private equity world for a long time. If you had a sort of parting piece of advice for entrepreneurs who may be listening to this, who are thinking of selling to private equity, what would you sort of leave them with as an idea to contemplate?
I would say, look, it is a very good exit option. Now, when I say exit option, I mean it's a very good form of liquidity. You don't necessarily need to exit the business. You can stay on for the next turn. But I think back to the point I made before, you should diligence the PE firm as hard as they're going to diligence you, because it's going to be a marriage for the next 4 to 5 years. And if you can't stand your wife after the first 3 months, it's probably not going to work out.
We'll leave it there. Lee McCabe, it's been a pleasure to get to know you both digitally as well as now in person. Where can people follow you? Is LinkedIn the best place? I know you post some of your thoughts there, but where else can people follow you?
I think LinkedIn's the best place. Find me on there.
Okay. And so Lee will put Lee's LinkedIn credentials along with links to his firm in the show notes of Built to Sell. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, John.